in the morning, Kigali.
Welcome to the other segment that you maybe did not really prepare for, but this one I need to prepare your heart to take it in. We have 12 minutes to 9 o'clock. Isabella Masozera is right here in the studios. Isabel is the founder of the Masozera Foundation. They do great work when it comes to holistic living. And I love them for that part of the work they do. They just cannot wait to start working on me because
to
I need
holistic
it.
review.
Isabel, good morning.
Good morning.
Our topic today is healing in silence. I'm not quite so sure how it happens, but there could be a hidden cost of hiding pain. Because most of us say time will neutralize everything. You go through pain of all kind. Sometimes we walk with diseases and we say, I will never tell anyone. I'll walk with it, and time will neutralize
heal
it.
everything.
Yesterday, I walked into some new research where they were saying that now you can tell a marriage that will divorce even before you go to exchange the vows
Absolutely.
by looking into character traits. And some people say, let me just walk through it. And then they walk in there and then they see all the signs that this is quite very toxic. And they live through it. They live with the pain because society is going to judge them. And at the end of the day, silently, they keep waiting for time to neutralize things. And then time doesn't neutralize anything. And they fail to live at all.
Yes.
And it happens to many of us, failing to live at all. Basically, starting to die and watching yourself die because
While you're living.
I'm trying to heal in silence. I'm not looking for help.
Yes.
Question: what part of us learns to hide pain so well? And I know they say that women know how to hide pain so well.
We have mastered that.
Because I've seen this with my mother.
Some might argue men better, but yes.
I've seen my mother live with pain unaccepted in a family she married in because she was of a different faith. And she lived with that. I saw her being tormented while I was a child, being sent away from home, in, out, in, out. In as much as she's been able to raise very successful children, which I give her credit for, but every time I watch her, like when there's an event, a function, her daughter is getting married, or she's attending a graduation where her son is, I look at her and I cry because I've seen her go through all of that pain. Healing in silence, not talking to anyone, not trying to explain anything. All right? The hidden cost of hiding pain. What part of us learns to hide pain so well, and why do we keep performing okay even when we are falling apart inside? Is it strength or is it self-abandonment?
That's a packed question. Even as you went on explaining, so much was going through my mind. And I think you can tell my eyes a little red today because right before this segment, I was listening to the story of this young lady that you had in studio. And I found myself crying, because people are going through so much is happening. But to come back to your question, when you say, how does this start? What parts of us learn how to hide pain and suffer in silence? I would say that it goes back to our childhood. We learn that in childhood. We learn that watching our parents, like you said, sort of like cover up their pain. Choose sort of like portraying composure over expression. And that can be very dangerous. So what happens is it's literally engraved. Last week we talked about our Rwandan society, our African society. Dignity is woven in our social fabric. We grow up celebrating that strength, that composure, that dignity, and we look at it and we think that is strength. But I also want to say something that we didn't unpack last week, still talking about why we say, I am okay even when we are not okay. When you look at what happened back years and years, generations and generations back, there's impact from it. And I would like to call that colonial trauma. And that comes, as whether you like it or not, as a result of colonial oppression, generations and generations of oppression and hardship, where our people did not have the liberty, they didn't have sort of almost like the right to express. They had to deal with hardship, they had to keep going. You also look at our cultural expectations. There are so many facets that have conditioned us. You can't even begin if we were to talk about all the things that inform why we learned that in childhood, but why that has moved through generations and generations of trauma carried forward. You can't exhaust it. You look at religion. The lovely lady that was talking to you earlier kept quoting spirituality and religion and all of this. In church, what do we celebrate? When people come up and stand up and give testimony, half the time it's not sort of wrapped in weakness and all of that. It's like, I've conquered. There's
got it all together.
There's that. We celebrate it in all facets of our surroundings, of our living, of everything. And so, is it strength? No, it cannot be, unless... Now, I want to put a caveat, a small caveat, because last week someone walked up to me and said, okay, what if I prefer to heal in silence? And I said, that's okay, but only if you're healing in a healthy way. Like if okay, you can't even call it healing unless you can tell me that, number one, you have that emotional, you are in that emotional state where you can hold space for whatever emotions that you're having, or mental struggles, or whatever space you're in, and hold it in a healthy way. You're not isolating. There's a difference. You're choosing to heal alone. You're saying, I want to shut out all the noise. I don't want Jesse to talk about, where I'm at, or influence whatever I am thinking from his own projections. That is the only time we can say that healing in silence is actually healthy and strength and okay. Yeah.
Masazera, do you think people are healing in silence, really? Or people are ignoring, they're just trying to pretend to show that we are healing, but in actual sense they are not healing?
The latter. Most of the time, the latter. Like I said, I want to not generalize, right? There are those people that have already walked the journey, perhaps, and they have the tools to go beyond maybe just coping. Now they're in a space of building capacity. That's a conversation I want us to have sometime, the difference between those two. If you are in that space, it means you are already somewhere. But majority of the people, it's actually hiding. It's hiding. And when you go, so one of the things is, if you're sitting with whatever you're feeling is a bridge, that's okay. If it's a wall, then there's a problem. Why does it become a wall? Very many reasons. Because you have now to ask yourself, why do people prefer to heal in silence? It comes down to vulnerability is risky. It means that you risk sharing with Jesse what you're going through, and he may hold space for you, or he might judge you. He might reject your request for help. But even the harder part, that I think, the thing that we are most afraid of when it comes to vulnerability, it's that it can be received with apathy, indifference. The most scary thing is not when someone rejects you. You can deal with that. People can live with criticism. But indifference, that cuts even deeper. And so there's that fear of like, if I put this pain out there, am I not inviting even more pain to myself?
You see, maybe I would need to unlearn, but I think I've had people say a strong African family does not go talking about the
Its problem.
problems of their family to other
Yes.
people.
Yes.
We're all brought
But
up in
keep-
that kind of situation.
Keep what happens in your home
Yes,
Inside.
inside the
inside
house.
the boundaries
Yeah.
of your house. Isn't that self-defeating?
It is self-defeating.
Because then you don't want to speak to anyone about what happens in your home.
But at the end of the day, people need to understand that vulnerability does not equate to oversharing. That's not what we're pushing for. We're not saying go screaming in the street saying, I'm dying and crying and having ugly cries and all of that. That's not what we're pushing for here. You can share without oversharing. You can share without feeding gossip, which is what we are afraid of. You can say, I am not well, I need your support, and you can articulate how you need support.
You see, one thing you're forgetting, at least from my inside information, especially for women, they say it's difficult for two women to actually keep each other's secrets. Two women who are married, each in their own home, when these two women come together to discuss their issues, the both of them will go and discuss with the partner that, did you know Juliana is going through such and such a thing? Then the partner will also move that as a rumor. So even when you think you're not sharing too much, at least there's a chance what you have shared is going to be shared with somebody else.
But that's why vulnerability is risky again. There has to be a cost.
But according to research, tables have turned in Kigali. It's not even the women who are sharing each other's
It is
stories.
the men?
It is the men.
The men are sharing each other's stories?
Yes.
Because men have become women?
I don't want to say that because you can never become a woman anyway. But I think they prefer to talk more than the women.
So women have built the walls not to share anything, and men have loosened it up.
They're talking everything.
I want to bring us back a little bit.
Okay.
I think what Juliana is saying, and we've had this, women, always worried, if, for example, I have sexual relations with this guy, is he going to go and talk to his guys after a beer or two? I assume that's what Juliana is alluding to,
And
right?
they're sharing a lot more about the sexual life.
So
yes.
whatever men are sharing, it's very surfacey. I want us to understand that there's a difference. When women sit down, women are really getting deep into, this is what's happening. I'm struggling here, I'm struggling there. That's very important and it's very needed. When it's not, let's laugh about what's, even if it's not laughing at, but it's like gossip, all of that. I would not want to generalize. I think there's a lot of emotional maturity that women carry. And they know when it's not okay to share. Does that mean all the women do that? No. But that's, again, goes back to the riskiness of vulnerability. And that's why we call it strength. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and say, by the way, my life is not perfect. And that might mean me telling you, 5 people might know. But I'm not here to show you that I'm strong. I'm not here to show you that my life is perfect. I'm here to be human. I think the core of vulnerability is humanity. We are human, and that's something we need to celebrate.
You see,
But also, let me say this loud and clear, that people in Kigali do not make it so easy for you to open up.
Okay.
Because people here have built walls, permanent walls, in that you don't even feel flexible to share your problems. They look perfect. How am I supposed to share my problems with a
If you
perfect
look
person?
perfect, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For them, women don't look like they have problems in this town. They look like they have arrived. So you feel like, I will not share.
Yes.
A lot of people are going to feel what exactly I'm talking about. I will not share because, I'm going to be the topic at the end of the day because the person I'm sharing with doesn't look like they understand what's on the other side of the wall. Yet, in actual sense, even that person who looks perfect, the inside, they're rotting.
suffering. That's
Yes.
true. I agree with Juliana 100%. We have put up walls because they protect us.
for instance,
Yes.
there is no single day I would wake up and find you Isabella Masosera.
Not looking perfect.
Not looking perfect.
And
There
that's
is
not
no-
true.
There's
You know,
there's
Jesse.
no
Jesse.
Share with my source.
That is not true. Jesse,
You don't look like any problem. I
yeah,
know.
you two are part of the problem. You're part of the problem, because I'll say this for sure. I walked in here with red eyes
No, that's
after crying because of listening to this young woman's story. I was literally falling apart just listening to it. I'm a mother to a girl. I can relate on so many levels. Right? You understand? Also, I'm probably the first person Jesse has ever had cry on a phone. Because he asked, "Are you okay?" And it actually triggered me because I was not okay in that moment. And I was more concerned about the closeness, that aids, than I was my image. I think the risk we run here, continuing this randomness, and that's what, by the way, people call it, it is actually sad, because what you're saying is so evident, not just to
Yes.
ourselves, but to even the people outside. I remember this guy, who once wanted to consider having, putting out his manifesto to be in my life. And the first thing he said to me, two things. A Rwandan woman will always go back home. But number two, you'll never truly know a Rwandan woman. They are walled. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a Rwandan woman, and I'm the most vulnerable person I know. Like, I really, I have nurtured that. But when they started to unpack, I was like,
I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying. And I remember coming back home, I struggled so much connecting because my vulnerability was often met with, "Oh my God, she's too much, oh my God, she's a loose cannon, I can't trust that."
They actually call us loose, the ones
Exactly. So it was stigmatized, sometimes met with the sort of these undertones. Someone won't tell you, but you can see it in their body language of, back off, back off. I'm not, yes, we're not. But the thing about that is we risk closeness. We risk not being able to build real relationships. And you mentioned something about marriages, relationships. You think time is going to fix it. I can see a lot of divorces in Rwanda. A lot of our people are getting married young. When they go to counseling, the counseling is not effective. It does not put into context our history, post-generational trauma, a lot of these things that we need to be actually looking in the face. And like you said, can you tell really if a couple is going to make it? I'll tell you for sure I can. I'll look at their communication skills. I'll look at their conflict resolution. How do they handle that? There are so many things. I'll look at vulnerability. Can you both hold space for each other? Men are quite good at holding space for women when they fall apart. But show me a woman who can sit in real vulnerability of a man, and I'll show you a woman who has done so much work on themselves. Because it's not that easy.
I think a lot of marriages failing in Kigali is because of this story of healing in silence. Because people are failing to be vulnerable.
Yes.
They are scared to be vulnerable, that is it, to bring the vulnerability out there. And it's causing a lot of breaking, it's breaking a lot of marriages.
Absolutely.
Listen, I just want to bring us to the fact that the world has 8 billion people.
I think we're more than 8 these days.
More than 8 billion people.
Okay.
If you check how many of those you have contacts with in your phone book, they're just a handful.
Yes.
If you check your phone book, maybe you have 100 or 200 contacts. I'm not so sure.
If you're Jesse, maybe 1,000.
No, I don't have those. In those contacts, you like to realize maybe you interact with about 15 or 20 in a month.
That's true.
All right? In the 15 or 20 that you interact with, when you really have a problem, maybe 2 or 3
You can go to.
you can go to. Of the 2 or 3 you can go to, maybe 1, sometimes none, comes through.
That's a fair point. Okay.
Now, truly no one cares.
That is not true.
Truly no one cares.
And even if it
we
were, it's
are
reversible.
all by ourselves.
That is not entirely true.
Okay, that's really sad if that's what goes
And
through your mind.
well, there could be truth to it, okay? But this is how I look at it. Like I said earlier, the risk of not embracing vulnerability is that we live in isolation. We live and suffer in silence. We risk not having closeness, emotional honesty, and all the things that can solve the problem that you're talking about.
The thing is, you're going to be judged for your pain, and you would wonder if anyone cares even when you tell the truth.
But there's only one way to find out.
It's
Tell
to tell.
the truth.
It's to tell the truth. We have to start
Actually,
somewhere.
even if no, let me tell you this.
The English people said, beaten once.
Twice shy.
So I think even if the world doesn't hear the truth, and doesn't accept your truth, you will actually feel better after telling the truth.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether someone is coming to your rescue or not. You will. I personally think that way, and I think it has worked. You will feel better.
Yeah.
You will feel you have offloaded certain things.
Such an
off your-
outlet. Yes. I agree with Juliana. And there's so much power in that. Sometimes we are looking to get to the end before we even look at the process. I think it's important to appreciate the process. Walking that vulnerability journey is not, by the way, the ability, building the capacity to be vulnerable does not happen overnight. Today you will learn to open up just a little bit. Tomorrow you master the strength to open up just a little more, and before you know it, you actually have gotten to that place where your image, perfection, all of these things suddenly don't matter that much. You're also now worried about purpose to your pain, and you have to think about the greater good. Every time you tell your story, like I said recently in my TED talk, it's little cracks that let in light for someone else. You allow your story to be sort of like the bridge, the channel. It becomes the inspiration, the motivation for someone to know, I can make it. If that person, managed to pull through this, or they are going through it and they are strong and they're taking it one day, but I'm not alone. Even that, because we're such an individualistic world today. And that is a shame, because as Africa, we were the opposite.
We will village.
Absolutely.
Very communal.
Yeah.
We even talk about, our parents, they learned how to hide pain. These were not part of our things. We never used to hide pain. These are things we picked up on the way as a result of trauma and all other influences. When you look at our African traditional society, like I said last week, when a man had a problem, what did he do? There would be a pot of rugwagwa. He would call upon the chiefs,
yes.
he would call upon the people who are the elders. He would present the problem. Together they would find the solution. African traditional society have gone back too much. My mother's generation, when they were married and they had a problem in the home, what would happen? They would go to the elder. The elder would assemble the elders. They would present what the problem or the hardship is, and together they would put their heads together. Together has become together, but that is the point.
It's okay.
That is the point. Together,
They found
a solution, and you are not alone in your pain. So these, silence and suffer in silence, and, it's not our thing.
You see, I think we have all these emotional traumas and mental health problems because we are failing to release. And the numbers are growing higher and higher. So we can't say that it's an easy thing to just go and open up to people.
Yeah.
Because, we have carved in these walls to feel protected. Because when we become vulnerable, then we feel unprotected. We feel we're too naked, especially for a small community.
Yes.
Juliana here yesterday just went out for lunch. Everyone knows she was out for lunch. And everyone is calling me. They've seen her spend a lot of money at the Serena
Which
for
I
lunch.
don't have.
Which money she does not have.
It's called self-love, people. Self-care. Once in a while.
You see, the problem is we live in a community which is, and again, that's what brings people, what holds people's vulnerability again back. We live in a community that is very judgmental, that is very nosy, in that I'm scared to even tell my story to Masozera or my personal issues that I'm going through, because the next day or the next few hours I'm going to be a conversation in a WhatsApp group. In that everyone is nosy to know, oh, even Juliana can fail, even Masozera cannot have fuel. I
Yeah.
mean, it's normal to run out of fuel. I'm just saying, I'm just giving an example. But because I can't say that hey, Masozera, I'm stuck here because I cannot move my car, I'm out of gas or something.
But you know,
Because we live in a community that is very nosy.
but you have to
and-
understand why. You have to ask yourself, why is someone behaving like that? Because a healed person, a happy person in and out, can never think like that.
But we're not
That's
happy.
brokenness.
that's
that in
different.
silence,
So it tells
that is
you-
not wanting the best for somebody else.
So
that
Masozera
is a
tells
lot
you
of.
that a lot of people that were actually trying to think they're okay, they're not
They're
okay.
not okay. So we
People
need
are
to
all
heal.
broken inside. If people are not healed on the
Not
inside.
all, but most.
You know,
We're
somebody
walking
said,
around with wounds.
somebody said we're such a broken community that we can't just live with ourselves and be content. We have to live in someone else's life. We always look out for what bad can
Is
I
happen-
cause.
Can
to
I
somebody
cause or
else.
is happening in someone else's life?
You're
So I
looking
feel
for
better about
someone's
my
sad
own
story.
life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, why are we getting satisfaction from other people's sadness?
I don't think that is unique to Rwanda. I have to say. I think that's unique to the world. When you look at the world today, what news prompts clickbait faster?
Biachis.
Nyine vya cheese.
Yes.
Why
Bad
do we like
things.
vya cheese? John, we look
Bad
for them.
things, because in a way, and it's subconscious. Subconscious. In a way, you know, sometimes you're like, my life is not too badly off, even when you're not thinking it. But that's where I say we need to heal. We need to heal. What should attract us more should be someone's success. Well, we should want that for them so that we can also maybe tap into it. You know, they say, you know, the sum of the people around you, you know, we should learn from them. You maybe become them. So when you when you talk about, and it is true, I can't sit here and say Juliana is lying. I've seen it. You'll find a group of people out and about discussing someone's failing marriage, discussing how someone was fired, discussing how that guy used to be so great, but then he became an alcohol addict. See now where his life is.
Some people are discussing your salary, my friend.
But that's pettiness.
Masozera, how can Masozera be earning 500,000 the way she feels like she's head over heels? You
What
know,
if
it's-
I
it's-
find content in that work and it's
You know
really
what I
not
mean?
about money for me? So we need to heal. We need to heal.
Let me just try to bring the conversation to a close because we're running out of time.
Yes.
In a culture where dignity is sacred, all right, where it is bambone, you know, where it is ukwigaragaza, you don't look like you are failing, where it is show a good face and a good smile even when it is turmoil
Falling apart.
on the inside, wear the best makeup, wear the best dress and the best shoes, and that shows that you truly Rwandan because you have to look a dignified person when everything is falling apart. Where we go for a burial and you can't cry out your tears because you still have to look good for the camera
And wear makeup.
instead of grieving.
Wow.
All right, where a burial ceremony should look like it is a wedding party with decoration.
Wow, that's packed, Jesse.
In a culture like this, do we sometimes choose silence over healing just to save the face? What is the exact emotional price of looking well put together?
The cost of perfection is very high, extremely high. And what it comes down to is numbing, isolation. There's nothing good that comes from it. Depression, living with anxiety to keep up. You notice everything I just said is your mental health is not doing great. You're ignoring your emotional wellness. There's nothing good that comes out of that. That's where we see suicide rates. That's where we see people walking around as shells of themselves. I recently shared my own personal story. And it's hard to be vulnerable because I remember after sharing it, the reaction I got, it was mixed reaction. And I remember going into it after it was posted. I called a friend of mine and I was like, oh my God. I work in wellness, but even I had that moment of, oh wow.
Should we just pull it down?
Should I pull it down after reading a couple of comments? But one thing I realized is nothing good comes out of living a lie. Authenticity aids real healing, self-awareness, knowing this is who I am, this is where I'm at. If where you're at equals Jesse, I can sit in my house, I can tune out the noise, I have all these tools to help me navigate anxiety, help me navigate all of the, which by the way, I should be teaching us one tool every time we are here. If I can, that should be the goal. Maybe someday I should be able to stand on my own feet, because sometimes you're going to share and people won't show up. What's going to happen, right? If that's what you're working on right now, to have the capacity to stand on my own, but you still have the capacity to be vulnerable and ask for help, you're not who we are talking to right now. You're good. But if you are there and you're dying in silence to keep up face, to look like the VIPs of Kigali, right? How do you call them?
Rwanda A.
The Basilimu, I don't have the lingo. I don't have the lingo. Then I'm afraid for you. I'm real afraid for you, because there's a timeline to that and you don't have control over it. So what I would say is, number one, find your tribe. It might be just 2 people. And they don't have to be your pastor. They also don't have to be the most well put together person in your group. But find your tribe and share. There's nothing, and absolutely nothing good that comes out of isolation, suffering alone. It's not brave. It's weakness. It's failing to look the reality in the face. And I want to end with this, Jesse, on that question is, for me, I paid a very high price for trying to do that, because I did that for a very long time. And then you know what happened to me? I remember I woke up one day and I was just crying hysterically. Everything I thought, you see, all this time you think you're being strong, you're just putting stuff in a safe. And it's going to come out. And like we said last time, you may not be in control of how it comes out. And then the price of how it comes out is going to be far higher than you actually taking the time and choosing imperfection and choosing vulnerability and saying, hey, I love you, you love me. I'm asking you to hold space for me. This is where I am.
Charity begins at home.
Yeah.
Okay? And we know that family is just the smallest unit that make the community.
Absolutely.
Where should be the beginning space in our homes for us to have siblings, parents, children, to start with, who are vulnerable, who are able to unlearn certain things that we know we've been doing or we do to show face. What is the place to begin?
I think conversation, no matter where that is. We are a generation as Rwandans, I want to start here, where sometimes we don't have the blessing of family or the opportunity to have one because of our history. So it doesn't matter who you choose to be your family, who you choose to be your tribe, who you choose to be your clan. Now I'm talking about the adults. Find it and have a conversation. Have your friends sit down and say, we are changing this narrative around vulnerability and emotional honesty. We're going to be honest with each other. Because that's what true friendship is. That's what true brotherhood is. That's what us being Rwandans is. We've seen what it means to look for help and be left to suffer alone. If there's ever a community that can turn this around and embrace each other and say, your pain is my pain, I'm here when you need me, it's us. Number 2, when it comes to our homes, you don't teach children by saying, you teach them by doing. If your mother and your children have never seen you cry, I think there's a problem. Because when we think about vulnerability, it's a different conversation when it comes to your child. But I'll tell you this for free. My children have seen me cry when I'm happy. They've seen me cry when I'm sad.
And it's really okay.
And now they know it is okay to cry. They can come to me and they know that there will be no judgment. Someone recently shared a story that a young girl came from school and told them that they were being bullied. And the first reaction was, what was the young girl wearing? They added on the shaming. And the parent is supposed to be the safe space. So tomorrow, if that young girl, God forbid, is raped, she's going to first think, what did I do? Was it my clothes? Was it, you see what I'm saying? So in our homes, we're going to teach by doing. If your parents, and by the way, children are the most intuitive, spiritually attuned human beings you will ever meet. If the mother is not okay, it doesn't matter how much makeup she's wearing. That child knows mommy and daddy. If they're a little old, mommy and daddy, things are not good. So you're not going to come here and start pretending around them. They're going to do the exact same thing tomorrow.
I've always known my dad as a hard guy. The day my dad lost his father, my grandfather, I found my dad seated in a corner like a little baby. Just that made me wailing all day. And the image remained in my mind, like, how is my dad over there crying like that?
I hope it validated and it gave you permission to do the same.
Oh, I'm a crying person.
That's good.
I'm always
A crying person is a healthy person.
I'm a crying person.
By the end of this show, you'll get a text of a crying baby, which is okay. People
Yeah,
are
it's
going to call
no,
you
for me,
crying
I'll
baby.
cry. And I'm
But
when I
it's
cry,
okay to
when
cry,
I cry,
Jesse.
I cry.
I keep
should
telling you every
normalize
time that it's okay to cry. I loosen up and cry. It's very normal to cry because I cry and I feel better.
So you
Yeah,
see, I don't
it's-
know
it's a
how to
release.
quarrel.
Yeah.
So every time you see my voice is flat, cool, calm,
I can imagine
collected.
you wailing with your voice.
When
Juliana.
I raise my voice, it
Well,
only
you
goes
cry.
up once and tears burst out.
Oh,
But that is, for me,
please don't ever raise your voice on me.
So I don't know how to raise
Because
my
I don't
voice.
want to see your tears.
I want to say something. When you look at, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, one of the things that we struggle with is grief.
Yes.
But I love how the African traditional society held space for grief. When somebody died, do you know what used to happen? The first thing that notified you someone was dead was
The wailing.
the wailing.
These
It
days
was
we hire
an
people to
outlet.
wail for
These
us.
days
Exactly.
We have
Because we
mastered
want
of
to
hiring
remain
people.
How can
collected.
we have the ugly cry?
No,
do you
but
know
my
the other
makeup
thing?
has to stay intact.
Absolutely. We're wearing shades at funerals. I think I've also worn some, but I'm not afraid to cry. But the thing is, also the other thing that we used to do, we had these small rituals that what Juliana is talking about, to create release, to hold space. The woman, if you lost your husband, you would shave your head sometimes, depending on the
Yeah,
culture.
you'd go bald, by the
You
way.
would go bold. They would do all these rituals, shower you, do all. The women would sit on the mattress with you for like a week.
You'd sleep
You
on
know,
the
they would share in that pain with you. There was so much around that should teach us that it is okay as Rwandans, as Africans, to say, I lost that job and today I am not strong. I'm going to fall apart because I'm worried about A, B, C, D. Come to my house, sit in this with me and not feel like you're a crybaby.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for bringing the conversation to life today. Every Thursday morning, 8:30 is Wellness Thursdays. Here we sit with Masasa to go through these conversations of having that inner healing. All right, holistic living is what we are trying to achieve here. We have 26 minutes after 9 o'clock in the morning, Jesse and Juliana. These conversations take me to a place where I start to see everyone in my life, literally, and check if they're crying or not crying.
Have you checked
That's
on me
good.
if I'm crying? Let
Juliana, I know you're always crying. So,
Okay, that's not
Jesse.
Kigali. Yeah, it's a good day to rise up on Kigali in the morning. Kigali.
From around the world in